All right, we're going to dive deep, and I mean really deep, inside our own biology to explore what is arguably the single most important part of nearly every cell in your body. We're talking about the command center that's running the whole show. I mean, really think about it for a second. Every single one of your cells is like its own tiny, bustling city. It's got to have a city hall, right? A central office that directs all the traffic, manages all the construction, and most importantly, holds the master blueprints for everything. So, what is it? Yep, you guessed it, it's the nucleus. And for the next few minutes, we're going to explore this amazing structure. Think of it as the ultimate high-security facility that runs the entire operation of the cell. Okay, so first things first, let's get that high-level bird's-eye view of this incredible structure. We'll start by checking out the main departments that make up this whole command center. So, a typical eukaryotic nucleus has 4 main parts you gotta know. There's the nuclear envelope, that's basically the building's walls and all the security gates. Then you have the nucleoplasm, which is all the juicy stuff inside. The nucleoli, which are like these little specialized factories. And finally, the chromatin, which holds the all-important blueprints. Don't worry, we're gonna get into all of these. But here's where it gets kind of weird. While having 1 nucleus per cell is pretty standard, biology just loves to throw us a curveball. Let's look at some really fascinating exceptions to that rule. Okay, get this. Take our own red blood cells. When they grow up, they literally just toss out their nucleus. They ditch it completely. Why? To make more room for oxygen. So you have these living, working cells with no central command center at all. How wild is that? And then you've got the complete opposite. Some cells, like certain muscle fibers, are absolute powerhouses. They need more than just one boss to get the job done. So they're multinucleate, which just means they have several command centers all working together to manage their super complex jobs. All right, so if this command center is so important, how on earth is it protected? Well, we'll start with the outer defenses, the nuclear envelope. You can think of it as a kind of high-tech border patrol. And we are not talking about some simple wall here. The nuclear envelope is this sophisticated double-layered membrane. Its outer layer is actually connected to the endoplasmic reticulum. That's part of the cell's bigger factory network, and it's literally studded with ribosomes, the little protein-making machines of the cell. Okay, so this brings up a really good question, right? If this place is so locked down, so secure, how does it get supplies in? How does it send instructions out? How does it talk to the rest of the cell? The secret? Thousands of tiny gateways called nuclear pores. Now, small stuff, little molecules, they can just diffuse right through, no problem. But the big, important molecules? Oh, they need a special pass, a specific signal sequence. Gatekeeper proteins called nucleoporins act like bouncers, checking their pass and actively escorting them across the border. It's a super tight, highly regulated security system. All right, we've made it past security. Let's head inside the command center itself. Let's go see what's happening on the operations floor and check out those little factories humming away. So that jelly-like stuff filling up the inside of the nucleus? That's called the nucleoplasm. And it might look a little like the cytoplasm that's outside the nucleus, but trust me, it's a totally different chemical world in here. The nucleoplasm is specially loaded with all the raw materials needed for reading and copying DNA, things like free nucleotides and those crucial enzymes, DNA and RNA polymerase. Tucked away inside all that goo is the nucleolus. You can picture it as this super dense, dedicated factory floor, and it has one single critical job: building ribosomes. You know, the machines that then go out into the cell to build all the proteins. And here's a crazy little fact. This whole factory just dissolves when the cell needs to divide, and then it rebuilds itself afterward. Wild. Which brings us to the real crown jewels, the most vital component of all. The whole reason this command center is so heavily guarded in the first place. Let's talk about the genetic blueprints, the DNA. So most of the time, the cell's DNA is just kind of hanging out in a form called chromatin. The best way to think about this is like a massive library where all the blueprints are unrolled and completely accessible. It's this network of thin, thread-like DNA wrapped around proteins, so the cell can easily read whatever gene it needs to do its day-to-day job. But what happens when it's time for the cell to divide? You know, when the entire library of blueprints needs to be copied and moved to a whole new building. You can't just carry a tangled mess of papers, right? No way. You've got to package them up securely. And that is exactly what chromosomes are. When the cell gets ready to divide, those long, thin threads of chromatin condense and coil up super tight into these thick, packaged structures. This is the ready-to-move version of the DNA, and it makes sure that all that genetic info can be sorted and divided perfectly between the two new cells. No mistakes allowed. Okay, so let's zoom out and tie this all together. We've seen the security, we've seen the internal factories, we've seen the priceless blueprints. So why is the nucleus so fundamentally important? What's the big takeaway here? Well, it really is what the source material says. It's the most prominent and the most important part of a cell, period. By protecting the DNA and controlling which genes, which blueprints get used and when, it literally directs everything the cell does. From growing to reproducing, the whole shebang. It is the master control. And that leaves us with one final pretty crucial thought. The nucleus provides the stability and the control that allows complex life, like us, to even exist in the first place. So, what happens when that control system breaks down? What are the consequences when the command center loses its authority? That's something to chew on.